All right, welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. You've got the NIA boys here, Trunk Fan, eating his steak. You'll see him on screen right now. And we got Jack Butcher, fresh out of, where are you from again in the UK? Swindon. Fresh out of Swindon with his Ali G vibes.
You guys like that? Medium rare? Man, it's a little bit, I prefer rare. It's a little bit overcooked.
All right, so you like it bloody. And I'm Bilal Zaidi, as always. And we got a big episode for you guys. We've been mentioning the Virgil DAO several times in past episodes, but we finally had a chance to digest it a little bit. And we'll be discussing that. RIP Virgil. We're gonna explain why, explain how he was thinking about Web3 world. Then we got a little bit on Steve Jobs and Bezos, and we got some fun fact fan there coming for you, explaining a time that they met and what that was like. And then Trung is also going to tell us how Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus, because it is the Christmas period right now. So let's kick it off, boys. I'm going to share my screen. This was posted by Fred Ersham, who's the co-founder of Coinbase and is a partner at Paradigm. Let me just share my screen right now. Basically, he's an OG and a G in the crypto space. It says Virgil Abloh was a pioneer in music, art, and fashion. Most people don't know he was also ahead of the curve in Web3. Shared with permission from his team, here's an early iteration of the DAO he envisioned. So this is the PDF I'm gonna keep on the screen. And Jack's been really kind of analyzing this a little bit, so I'll pass it over to you, Jack.
Yeah, get up onto the top page.
This one here? Skyscraper?
Yeah, skyscraper. All right, next page, sorry.
All right, here we go. Gymnastics Institute.
Yeah, so he refers to it on this page as starting a real-life digital museum. For it to become an institution where the currency used in that space is my unique social token. Inside the space will be my work, but also the work of a community of adjacent artists operating on a token of the space. So I think like higher level than what's in this document, talking about like Virgil's worldview, or like how tightly woven he was with like streetwear fashion culture and shaped that and was plugged into like maybe some of the most powerful nodes in the network, in the culture, is like, I think seeing this technology or having come into contact with this technology, there's so much overlap there, right? Like the networks that he's traditionally had to tap into to get his work out there have been bigger than him. I mean, Off-White, he built from scratch, right? Pyrex 23, if we go back to I can't remember which episode that was, but that was we talked about Virgil's work and his philosophy a few episodes, like 10 episodes ago, maybe. So if you didn't listen to that, go back and grab that one, because I think that was pretty good. But I think this speaks to like creators of that caliber really understanding the benefit of these models when used correctly, right? And I think what's also interesting about this is he led with the idea of him being the focal point of this thing, right? It wasn't like, hey, we're going to do this thing. It's going to be a complete meritocracy and like we're all going to make decisions together. Like he obviously knows that visionary creative direction is what put him where he is and what got every brand in the world essentially to either try and hire him or try and copy him, right?
That's such an interesting point. He framed it around, he was the center of this thing according to the document.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that's the way to make it the most valuable thing, right? Like this is his ideas have been tested in reality and they resonate with people. So that's what we should build around. But I also think Virgil, Kanye, those two specifically have talked about like how difficult it was for them to break into these industries and scenes that were dominated by very different people for the last 10, 20, forever, essentially. So I think that idea of getting to a point where you're bigger than those brands
is
huge too. Like he is bigger than, I would say, like
Kanye is bigger than in many ways. Kanye is bigger than Adidas, or Kanye is bigger than Gap, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think that trend is just getting started, right? And I think what he talks about in the document is bringing other people into that environment, and I think he's also like very intertwined with the music industry, and I think picking up on that idea of like fashion, like every creative industry signing people that are on the come up in their industry. It kind of works in fashion, but it's almost always under a brand, right? So it wouldn't be like this person's name in the same way that a music artist is like Jay-Z just signed X, right? And they have their own brand independent of Jay-Z, but there's a like strategic alignment between the two of them, and there's distribution that comes from being on this massive label, right? So I think all of those inputs and overlaps is where the like thesis for this comes from. And I think knowing that your distribution and your influence is bigger and probably like restricted in some ways by the brands you represent. I also think he like, maybe it's not a world first, but I think he repped multiple big brands at the same time, like Nike and LVMH. Like there was no like agreement that he couldn't work for one or the other at any one time, because he's bigger than both of them, right? In the same way that Kanye West is like, I'm doing Gap, I'm doing Adidas, maybe their first contracts they signed are exclusive, but they get so big that it's just like they will not commit to exclusivity because there's no need to.
Upside for them to do that completely.
Right. And I think this model is like them starting to see, okay, this is the next iteration of that, where I am the brand, but I can also incentivize people in a fairer way to participate and grow this thing and incubate talent and all of those.
Well, it goes to a question that Bilal has asked in previous episodes, like, how is using a DAO different than just a normal existing corporate structure or kind of traditional legal structure, right? So what do you think would have made a DAO vision different than just going standard LLC?
Yeah, well, Jack, you're having a thought there. I just want to add one thing to answer kind of what you're saying. And Fred Ersham shared this. He said that they jokingly called the DAO the Intermet, as referencing
like
the
Met Gala?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. The Met Museum. An internet museum to surface up-and-coming creators. Keep in mind, this is from the beginning of 2021, before NFT mania set in. Virgil recognized that Web3 had the potential to remove the gatekeepers he had to contend with his entire career.
There you go.
That it could enable
gatekeepers
creation.
Is the answer right?
That's the big one there, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That it could enable creation of the future rather than pulling from the creation of the past. I think that's a really great summary. And to me, just again, like zooming out, we talked about Virgil in a previous episode, but he had like quite a short career if you think about it. Like the way that he kind of rose up was, I think it was like 6 to 10 years of like rocket ship. And it wasn't the traditional path. You know, the gatekeepers he's talked about. And I know Kanye West in very famous interviews, like you ain't got the answer, Sway, if you ever watched that interview. And that was because Sway in the morning or whatever the show is, that guy who's, a legend in his world, in hip hop, but he was talking to Kanye West from that point of view of, just sell some merch, right? Oh, why don't you just make your own t-shirts, just sell them? And at the time it sounded crazy because Kanye comes across as, he is literally a bit crazy, and he's, like he isn't the best communicator in the world. But what he was saying at that time was, well, no, you don't understand the level of competence and level of craft that goes into creating an LVMH bag, a Ralph Lauren polo. It ain't Ralph though, as he referenced. Do you get what I mean? So that's the kind of like, he actually did the work and like, learned, I think it was Fendi or one of those.
Yeah, he interned him and Virgil interned at Fendi.
Exactly. So they like really
$10 an hour.
Completely. And they were already rich by that point.
Yeah.
Go on, Jack.
I think that line, it ain't Ralph though, is like all of this, right? That's what all of this comes down to, is like, if you can build a network, like Virgil is one of the few people who accelerated out of that, right? He became bigger than everything, same as Kanye. And it's like, if they can build, because this this white paper talks about a platform. This talks about like a place to like mint, like it literally says a place to mint NFTs and a marketplace and a place to collaborate. And like, imagine if you're in a virtual environment with Virgil and you're making clothes of some description and you're incentivized and he's incentivized to promote your work because you're all financially aligned. I think that is like a response to like working in a model that has a mega high take rate for a good amount of time, right? Like Kanye and Virgil both got like made a good amount of money, but relative to the value they created, like did they really? Like, no. What's Matey's name? The LVMH geezer?
Matey's name.
Bernardo. I don't even know if I'm saying it right.
Bernardo, like richest man in the world, like how much of that comes from LVMH, how much of that goes to Virgil, right? And there's supply chains and there's complexity there for sure. But if you think about like the thing that LVMH functions on is like the meme of LVMH, and you have to keep that perpetually relevant. And Bernard Arnault is probably very good at hiring people that can do that. He's not the person that's doing it, right? It ain't Ralph. But it is Virgil. Like they're like in the studio making this stuff. And I think like these Web3 models offer like more leverage and higher financial upside for people that already have network effect, but are getting like bottlenecked, by the
existing systems,
the system that they work in. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jack, I think it's just a bigger, like the way I see it anyway. It's by the way, there's sirens in the back because we're in New York. So if you hear that, sorry about that. But the way I see it is, I don't think like these guys, the way they've been running, are necessarily like these big villains. I know that you're not saying that, right? But like a lot of people see them as, they've been like ripping people off for years, and now it's just catching up with them. I just see this as an evolution of.
Me too. Yeah.
Now we have the way, the same way Google and Facebook and big tech is getting a lot of flack nowadays because they're like, they just monetize you through ads. And it's like, yeah, they did, but they also gave you free products to billions of people and free knowledge and free satellites in the sky to power maps. And now we're going to create better models and the market will decide if it's better or not. We don't know yet. There's a lot of great ideas of ads and ownership of all this stuff. I hope it works out, but we don't have that in most cases just yet. So I see this exactly the same way. Like we needed an LVMH in the fashion world for many years to be this conglomerate, to be the, find the talent, the tastemakers, etc., give them the resources to be creative and smash it out. And get the Kanye and Virgil to do that. But the future is looking more like those guys are going to have the competence and the tools to be able to do a lot of it themselves. And I've even seen like the evolution within our lifetime as adults or from kids to adults. Like, again, we talk about hip hop a lot here just because it's a dominant cultural force. If you think of Jay-Z, Dr. Dre, Diddy, Nas, right? Like growing up, they were, if you're a sick rapper, you're gonna like maybe put your name on like the champagne bottle and a pair of sneakers or trainers, as we call it. So right now, you're like, no, we're gonna create Rockaware. We're gonna create Diddy's brand of Sean John or whatever it's called.
Sean John was the one piece like sweatsuit.
In velour or something like that.
The velour, dude, the purple velour. Yo, Bilal, don't lie, man. You had some Rockaware.
I definitely sold a little bit of that. Little Echo, Mark Echo.
Echo, do you remember John Malone? John Malone jean?
I didn't have those ones, but I know that was a popular brand. Avisu as well,
What about Zoo York?
Classic. But anyway, so just to paint the picture again, like that is rapper, artist in this case, turned not just someone with their name on a bottle, but owning a part of the bottle, Dr. Dre, headphones, etc. So that's already a huge evolution and something we obviously all care about, ownership and upside or whatever. But now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, you might not even need that other part eventually. Or it's minimizing that other part that's needed.
Well, yeah, and I think there's stepping stones too, right? Like they built up to this point on that infrastructure, and we've talked about like the trade-offs of distribution and talent. Like it's going to take you what you did in 6 years by admittedly being like banging your head against the wall, but getting there eventually, like plugged into the distribution of all these businesses that are functioning and have supply chains and ad space and all that kind of stuff. But that ability to get close to that outcome as an individual is changing now. Like your distribution, the potential for distribution is crazy if you have something that truly resonates. There are obviously still big barriers, but we're going to release these in order, right? The last episode we talked about like the model as part of the artwork, which I think is kind of interesting, where you do see a lot of creative professionals, especially in like hip hop and fashion, become business people at a certain point, right? Where it's like, I've maxed out or even athletes, I've maxed out like my primary, the reward for my primary function, which is like performing or, you know, playing a game. And then there are all these different ways to create wealth outside of that. And I think for someone who's like truly creative, like a Virgil Abloh, you look at this infrastructure and it like lights you up in a different way than like looking at the ability to incorporate an LLC in America lights you up, right? You don't get any creative inspiration from the way you can, or maybe you do for like avoiding taxes, right? Like you could structure companies in ways.
If you're like a tax, I mean, those tax accountants, bro, don't think they're not left brain. They're
definitely smart. They're definitely smart. But if your objective is to like build something that gets more creative product out into the world,
right?
Then these models offer you new ways to think about that. Who knows whether it's going to be the right way or a better way, but it's like when those things meet people that have that kind of vision. Didn't Kanye West tweet 5 years ago, decentralized, like literally the one word? You could pull out
a bunch of stuff. We could definitely search that and find that. Well, actually, aren't there a ton of good visuals? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Chad, but it's like there are a lot of good visuals in this doc.
Yeah, right? Let's pull it back up.
Yeah, I was going to
describe it for the listeners.
Well, and just while you're pulling up, the last couple things before I share the PDF, in Fred Ursham's tweet storm, he basically said, you know, Virgil recognized Web3. Sorry, I read that part already about gatekeepers. This one was about he really got Web3 and the passion shine through, inspiring many artists that will go on to release early NFTs, and planting the seed with many more to come. The look on his face during the brainstorm says it all. Thanks, Anthony Schiller. And actually, so I was during lockdown last year, I would jump into these Clubhouse rooms, which I know you guys might have done as well. And I was actually in one of the rooms with him at one point, and he was talking about this stuff. And I was like really surprised how, first of all, the first time I heard him, he was just kind of listening. And then he was really like getting his head around a lot of this stuff. The other thing I was going to say, Fred Ursham said, Virgil saw this as his final act, a long project to get out from under myself, which is pretty sad, but also kind of
unbelievable.
Cool.
I mean, he was the artistic director at LVMH, which is Jack mentioned to listen to a couple episodes back. It was like, this is a $400 billion luxury house, right? It's the largest luxury brand in the world. And they do a lot of things, fashion, alcohol, and handbags, accessories. But like, he'd already ascended to the heights of creativity for the field he had chosen, right? But as we mentioned, he's a polymath. He has an architecture background, his engineering background. He's done music videos, fashion. I think I'm probably constricting to say that he ascended the heights of that, because clearly he saw no limits to his creativity, right? It could be manifested in any field. And let's go through the DAO to see if there's any more.
I was just going to share my screen again. So this is one of the, can you guys see that okay? So for people listening, this one was quite interesting. This slide this page, or whatever you want to call it, the Gymnastics Institute Path of Development. So this is moving from like the idea of a museum in, Web3 museum on the internet to kind of like what's the step-by-step? And the first one, he says, build the corporate structure, governance team, incorporate company, design and mint the original NFTs, cultivate partnerships, e.g. Zora, find and cultivate the roster of artists to initially launch the platform. And then the fifth one, exist as a skyscraper, a digital space with physical feel, curating and selling both NFTs and physical
Let's
artifacts.
pull it up. He had an image of a skyscraper there.
Yeah. Oh, like this one?
Yeah. That's it, right?
This is pretty cool.
That's in like
it's got Toshiba. And it's got the brands in there.
Taste of you know how he does like kind of like, I don't know what the right is, like it's like brutalist graphic design, is that right, Jack? It's like quote unquote a little bit ugly looking, or like meant to
I think
look very different.
Group it that way, yeah.
This is like 25 pages, so we probably won't get through every single thing. We'll share the link so people can read through, but that was kind of like the main stuff. This is also the main reason I wanted to bring some of this up is because a lot of people are trying to navigate DAOs right now and navigate like why they would launch a DAO, including us. Like we've thought about like what would an NI DAO look like? Is there even a need for it?
Yeah.
Should it just be a community? And I think this is actually a great template for people to borrow from, and the ideas in there, which are probably relevant to a lot of people.
Yeah, you know what I think is like special about this is obviously we're extrapolating this from how people are explaining it, but he had a real vision for it based on the technology that I think would change the way people would interact with it. Like it's hard to think of other people that like are that influential in pop culture that would say, I'm doing a virtual event, let's say, and people actually want to go to it. Like the closest comparison I have is like, this is probably not a kosher reference now, but the Travis Scott Fortnite thing, because there's a lot of, Travis Scott's, I haven't checked in on that story, but it's pretty horrific. But the idea of somebody that is truly influential in pop culture, not just doing something in this space, but like building it from first principles. Like I think there are people that are like doing deals and it's like, oh, Post Malone bought a Bored Ape. There's no way he went on like OpenSea with a MetaMask
wallet.
Wait, are you saying there's no chance? You just saying there's no chance?
I say zero chance. And if somebody can correct that, I say there's no way he did that himself.
If Post Malone can correct that, please.
Well, I actually know for a fact he didn't. There's a company called MoonPay that is an intermediary that does like, you can buy NFTs with a credit card. So they did that.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
What was the rip on that one?
Yeah, I'm sure. A nice little take on that. But then again, who knows if there's some backhander for plugging it that went on as well. So,
right.
Speculation. I have no idea if that's true, not investment advice, etc. But the idea that a lot of these like pop culture figures are just being attached to stuff versus people that are like building it ground up. There's very few people that have that cross both of those worlds. Like crypto native builders, yeah, they're doing amazing things, but do they have appeal to like the kid in high school? No. It's like that's the most uncool shit I've ever seen, right? Versus Virgil Abloh, where it's like people way overextending themselves to buy stuff that he had a hand in making.
I don't actually, you brought it, that's such a great point. Like a celebrity just attaching themselves to an existing project versus somebody thinking from first principles, how they do that. Like literally it's like, okay, I would expect Kanye to do something like this, right? Like,
I agree.
So Kanye, Virgil, but like, you nailed it. I was like, I can't even, like, who could do this and not get a cynical response? Like even like a guy like Drake. Hey, Drake's doing a DAO. I'd be like,
yeah,
no way.
I don't think there's many people. Yeah.
No, but I think this is like Jack brought up such a great point. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'm like, I couldn't even tell you.
Because you need someone who's got the creative, cultural, and business trifecta, which is really, you can argue Drake's obviously been pretty savvy.
That's what I mean, though. But he's almost too mainstream.
Yeah, like, he's like flying on a jet vibe, so it's different.
Yeah, Drake is. it'd be interesting to tease out like Drake's celebrity, but like Drake's gotten so big, right? Like, Kanye's obviously very. I feel like as a celebrity, there's something about Drake and Kanye's. They're definitely on the same level, and they actually kind of squashed their beef recently. But
I think they just performed together. They just
performed together, right? There's something about Drake though that's like doesn't feel like if he did it, I'd just say
yeah. Wait, I think it is. It's like I think Virgil and Kanye are way more experimental as part of their brand.
Yeah,
right. Like
there it is.
Like that's completely what they're about. And then like Drake is way more polished. Like this is the final product. Consume it as it is. And he's not going on interviews and saying, blurting out stuff that he's going to get in trouble for a couple of days late. Well, in real time now, but I think the idea, like, I'm racking my brain as well for someone else, and there are things happening on smaller stages. Like one of the people that's doing a good amount of this, not at that scale, just in terms of like, I don't know if he's been at it as long as the Bobby Hundreds. You know that?
Oh yeah, he did
brand?
The fashion brand, yeah.
So he actually tweeted, I think last week, like the amount of outreach I'm getting from people that want to work natively in this space, in streetwear and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a ton of people doing it, obviously, but at that level,
I think the only one I'm thinking of one is Jay-Z. Probably would be there.
That's true. And he's doing the Bitcoin version, the Ethereum 2.0, right? We've already predicted that.
But he's also more I think you brought up such a good point, Jack, about how polished Drake is. That's just a good example. His albums, he just tries to please everyone with his albums now, right? Is like, you know what I mean? He's like, I'll give you the
he's made the TikTok song.
Yeah, I'll make a TikTok song. I'll make an R&B song. Yeah. He's like, yeah, right. He's missing the experimental edge. I think you nailed it. The only other person that popped in my head was Banksy. Like, if Banksy did
that's
a DAO or something of that nature, I'd be okay. That makes complete sense.
That's a great shout. And there's some controversial thing on Twitter a while back where someone thought they bought a fake NFT from Banksy and they got the money sent back to them, which I think was probably a Banksy thing, but it was all shrouded in like whether was it real or not.
Yeah.
Big NFT collector actually called Pranksy.
Oh, but that's hilarious.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think that's a good shout on Banksy. I do think, again, not knowing too much, but I think he's probably, I don't know how savvy he would be with the newer technology side and seeing that. I don't know if he would.
Built like a fake Disneyland, man. I think he can figure it out.
That's true.
One more, and I haven't done my research on this, but he's been floating around a few of the NFT spaces. Pharrell.
Yeah.
Pharrell came to mind as well.
Because he's experimental. He has an experimental history, right?
Definitely.
Many versions of himself have existed.
Yeah, and he's got like obviously fashion music. I think that's like, I think as a collection he's involved in. Somebody's actually the guy that, or one of the guys that started Rainbow Wallet is trying to give him Pharrell.eth. I saw that going around on Twitter. They're trying to get that sorted in a space. But that's a good little growth. It's kind of like the BitClout thing, but a bit more, maybe a little bit more ethical if you want to.
What about Busta Rhymes, boys? We've seen him on Twitter going out.
How old is Busta Rhymes? Not to be ageist, but I think there's like models that are just like Ja Rule. It reminds me of that Fire Festival type stuff.
Okay, that's true.
No offense if they come and like.
I think he's legit trying to learn. I mean, it just, this tweets are like, hey, what crypto should I buy? And it's like, yo, this is mad. Like the stuff and then good for him for getting involved, but pretty funny. I was joking, by the way. I don't think he's going to be one of these.
Yeah, well, I think, you know what's interesting? It's like you can put like a person's creative influence on an adoption curve too. Like Virgil and Kanye probably still on the left side of that chart, which is incredible because of how much product and how many ideas they've shipped. Busta Rhymes, I hate to say it, it's probably on the right hand side of the.
He hasn't really done it since those Visu jeans with 25 pockets on them. You know
right.
What I mean?
And then there's a lot of people on the very left of that. I think the founder of Zora tweeted this, is like the next Eames, the next Ablo, the next, Hadid are all building in Web3 right now.
That's such a great, it's just because how fast you can move, right? And it's just the energy around it.
The network that will just completely blow this stuff to like the moon, as we've colloquially
as they say. On. But no, did you have any other like high level thoughts on the Virgil stuff, Jack?
No, I think that was a good chat, boys. And that's like definitely we'll link the white paper for people.
I think that was great. We'll share the link to that, and then I'll just close out by saying a couple things that he wrote in here, which I thought were quite cool. Created, curated, and owned by the people. So I think even though he was planning for it to be centered around him as a curator. But it was really about a museum bringing people together, tastemakers, people that people didn't know yet. And he's got a whole part in here of ownership, decentralized ownership. And he's got like Nike trainer, Mona Lisa, and like, like buildings and a plane in here. But you can kind of see visually what he's trying to explain. And then the last thing is he says past digital is its own entity. And now physical equals digital, which is a little deep. But so
he wrote this like maybe 5 years ago. He said the world moves as fast as Instagram scrolls. So I think
that's a bar.
Yeah, he got the metaverse before it's been blasted on CNBC, right? He's like, even if you're wearing stuff in physical culture, the way you're broadcasting and expressing that is primarily digital, right?
That's so true, right? It's like, but I'll throw it like, Fiat fan will throw in a fit, snap a picture, and not even walk out the house with it. He just wants people to know he's got.
Where are you posting this, Trung?
No, I'm playing with you. I sent you guys out, and you guys will laugh. I sent you that one pic when I went out to have a Thanksgiving dinner with my family. It's like the first time I put a blazer in 3 years. Like 2 people saw that. It's like, not a lot of people saw that fit. It lives in the digital realm.
That's true.
That's I mean, that's the basic thesis for some of these like NFT, like the really rudimentary implementation of that is like your picture, right? But then the evolution of that is your whole identity, who you interact with, what you do, all of this stuff.
Yeah,
dude, I love that. That's great.
That was a good discussion, man.
That went a lot of different places, man. That was solid.
Oh yeah, my hair's gone wild there, by the way. Sorry,
there you go,
but let us know what you think of that part in the comments. What if you read through the PDF? We'll share that in the show notes. Like, is there anything that stands out to you? Like, pretty cool stuff in there. I think a lot of people should check that out. All right, let's move on, boys. We got Steve Jobs and Bezos meeting, and Trung, this is straight to you. They were meeting and they were critiquing something. What were they critiquing?
All right, so they're critiquing the Segway, not going to bury the lead. And the Segway, the individual motorized thing with the wheels, if people aren't familiar, because, I'm assuming most people are familiar. If you needed a demonstration
of what it was, you should see the video if you're listening to this, because Trung is showing us.
Add the video. No, so like I'm a bit of a geeky tech history guy, history in general, but I do enjoy tech history. I've been trying to find stories of like these like CEOs meeting each other, right? Like I wrote a really popular thread about Elon meeting Bezos for dinner, and I found a story about Bezos and Steve Jobs in a room together, and they're critiquing the Segway. So, and top level, Jack mentioned this. So very sad. The inventor of the Segway unfortunately died in a Segway accident, which is just,
you can't make it up.
Unbelievable.
That's living in the simulation type stuff, right? Like it's just so messed up. But so the inventor of the Segway got Kleiner Perkins, one of the Silicon Valley's largest investors, to invest in the company. And John Doerr, which is a famous partner at Kleiner Perkins, he wanted his buddies, Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs, to opine on this new world-changing technology. But as you can imagine, they're very busy people. And so all that they're able to get all into one room was like a 30-minute session at a Hyatt hotel near the San Francisco airport in early 2000s. And it's a crazy story. It's from a book about the founding of the Segway. And what happens is...
Wait, did you read this book, Trung?
No, I got the excerpt. I found a multi-chapter excerpt from it. It's amazing. We can post it. So they roll it. So imagine this, right? Early 2000s. So Steve Jobs is back at Apple. The iPod just came out. No iPhone yet, but the dude's still a legend, right? Steve Jobs still a legend, has Pixar under the belt. Bezos is about 5 or 6 years into the Amazon journey now, but he's a billionaire, dude rich. And these guys are in the room together. So let me ask you guys, right now you have John Doerr, the VC, Steve Jobs, and Jeff Bezos in early 2000s. Who is the top dog in that room?
Well, Jobs for me personally.
It's Jobs, right? At that time,
be Jobs,
even before the iPhone, right? It's like, it's only in the last 5-6 years where Bezos has really become like the king big balls, right? And so Jobs rolls in. Jobs shows up late, and apparently, as they're waiting for Jobs, one of Kleiner Perkins' associates that works with John Doerr says Jobs' reputation always shows up late. And then let me ask you, when Jobs shows up for this interview, I mean the presentation of the Segway, what do you think happens? Do you think he listens quietly, or do you think he takes over the entire thing?
He's got his no shoes on. He's drinking orange juice because he's on orange juice diet, and then he absolutely tears a new one in Matey over there.
Dude, you're gonna laugh. You are going to shite yourself. That's literally what happens. It's like you could have predicted it. He shows up to this meeting. They do a presentation. And so they show up to the meeting. They're driving around the Segway example in the ballroom of the Hyatt near the San Francisco airport. And then the founding team of Segway, the project was called Project Ginger at the time, goes, all right, everybody, we're going to give you a 10-minute presentation. And Jobs goes, no, I can't do that. I'm not built that way. I can't sit for 10 minutes. And so he cuts off the presentation, shows up late, cuts off the presentation, and starts drilling them with hardball questions. They go, all right, how many products do you guys have? And they're like, we have 2 products. We have like this industrial Segway and like a kind of smaller transportation one. We're going to do it. Jobs like, no, that's dumb. Ridiculous. You have to have one Segway. And he's like, when I came back to Apple, we had 4 iMac colors, but it confused our entire team. My salespeople didn't know what to sell. My designers didn't know what to do. And the consumer didn't know what to buy. I made one color for our first release and forced everybody to buy that, right? So he's given like the full Steve Jobs lesson in 10 minutes here. So that the first lesson is focus your product line, right? And then right afterwards, they go, okay, well, how are we going to roll this thing out? And then Jeff Bezos chimes in. Jeff Bezos goes, I think you guys should go to Singapore, because in Singapore, there's only going to be one decision maker, the prime minister effectively, and he'll tell you whether or not you can have a freaking Segway, like, you know, the regulatory confines of having that vehicle on the road. So you have one decision maker. Jobs is like, no, that's dumb. That's ridiculous. You can't do that.
I'm the only decision maker here.
I'm the decision maker. Jobs is like, that's stupid. But again, Jobs gives like a quick lesson in like 60 seconds. He's like, the reason you can't do that is this. You can't slow roll in a small market because you have one chance for the world to see the Segway, and it has to be a big bang. If you do it in Singapore, news stories are going to come out. People are going to see pictures of it, and you're going to lose all the energy of a massive, you know how Jobs gets on stage and does the, hey, one more thing? You're going to lose that energy. So this guy's just dropping dimes left, right, and center in like a 10-minute presentation. And then this is the last one. I'll tell you guys, it killed me. He goes, the Segway guy's like, what do you think about the design? And Jobs like, it sucks. He's like, the design sucks. And they go, what's wrong with it? And again, Jobs drops his like design aesthetics. He goes, it doesn't feel anthropomorphic, which is like, you know, like consistent with how humans would operate with it. It doesn't look elegant, and it doesn't look innovative. It just looks like a golf cart on 2 wheels. So he dropped, basically comes in here 10 minutes. He's like, okay, guys, I'm out of here. I got to leave. That's it. That was Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos. 15-minute meeting in a room.
Somehow Trung manages to sneak in some actionable advice here from his funny story. He just disguises it. It's like the Socratic method. You don't even know you're learning. You just think you're here for jokes, and you're like, okay, so make it look innovative, anthropomorphic. I can't even say that word, but no, really. Well,
the other ones, though, the 2 ones that I loved was like, I love the Singapore one, because Bezos is like, oh yeah, you should go to Singapore. That one decision maker, and Jobs like, that's dumb. Like, if you go to Singapore, it's gonna leak. You have one chance to blow this up to the world, right? I just love his mindset around it.
Yeah, crazy.
And then the very first one, and we can wrap up after this, was he just goes and then just reiterating was I just found it hilarious. It's like, you can't have 2, you gotta have 1. You gotta focus the mind. I mean, I know Jack agrees with that, right?
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, in my short time experimenting, like, get one idea and one product, especially if you're starting from scratch. Impossible to scale out. It's just like, get it embedded in people's minds. I was going to ask about the Segway business though. After that, like, they blew up, didn't they? Like, but the primary use, wasn't it like the only time I ever see them now is like city tour things?
Yeah. Or Mall Cop, right? That's a joke. You guys remember Mall Cop?
Yeah.
I mean, it was supposed to replace.
What was that? Futurama?
Yeah, Futurama. I mean, that was a joke, right? It was supposed to replace walking, and like
What?
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. In hindsight, it's so ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
Got to replace walking. Jesus
like the
Christ.
picture is literally going to replace walking. But actually, one more point that Jobs brought up, which was so smart, was like he's like, Bezos is like, you can slow roll it out the gate, right? Like go to Singapore and like build up the hype. But Jobs is like, you can't do it with this thing. He brought up such a great point. And it kind of alludes to what happened with the founder who died from the Segway. Was like, the problem with this thing, if you slow roll it, is this. If during that slow roll, there's an accident, it kills the whole project right there, right? If like you have it in Singapore, and aside from the fact that you're losing the big bang that he wants, and like something happens, the whole project's dead. It's dead in the water. Man, I love this guy rolls in, shits on it. Actually, he had I'm not even saying, he had a quote. He goes to the Segway inventor and John Doerr, the investor. He goes, guys, listen, I have a design team that I want you guys to talk to. These guys, this is direct quote, they will do things that will make you shit in your pants. He's like, I want you to go meet the design team that will design something that will make you shit in your pants. And there you go.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, Trung. That was a good fun fact fan. And look, it's Christmas week. So let's finish off with a Christmas related story. Another fun fact fan for you guys. This is all about how Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus. And I think there's some interesting stuff to pull out from this one. But yeah, Trung,
and you nailed it, Bilal. I think I can do a quick top level, but the reason it's interesting is because Jack, Mr. Designer, and I'm sure Jack's gonna have a lot of things to say about Coca-Cola and their advertising and their ability to stay in the mind share, right? Like, let me ask, have you ever worked on a Coca-Cola campaign or related?
No.
But their reputation as an advertiser is just...
Oh, they spend, I think they're up there, probably top 5 in the world, advertising dollars,
spenders, right?
Yeah, billions a year. And what's their kind of reputation as, aside from the money being spent, but like...
Oh, you know what? I have worked on some Coke stuff. Yeah. So one of the agencies I worked at probably 6-7 years ago now had a big presence in it. It's actually founded in Atlanta, and obviously Coke's headquarters is.
Oh yeah, you're there right now. Yeah.
So they do. They did all sorts of stuff for them, but the division of the company that I was working for was working on like installations for like retail. So like trying to explain the 4,000 different Coca-Cola products. I think it was like a Coca-Cola museum type thing that they were working on. They had a reasonable reputation as clients back then. I think one thing that I didn't know about, or you don't know about Coca-Cola, is like they make milk. Like they got so many thousands of drinks. Like you look at a fridge and you're like, oh, Coca-Cola makes Coke. It's like, no, they probably make 70% of the stuff you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
The absolute opposite of the Steve Jobs skew advice.
Not one, right? Like everything. Oh, Dasani water, for example. But their reputation, I think, as designers, it goes back to their original design, right? Like the name Coca-Cola, like the original designer, his name is Frank Robinson. He was an employee of the pharmacist that created Coca-Cola, John Stilth Pemberton.
Wow, that's mental.
That's crazy, right? But think about in the mid 1800s, Coca-Cola, or late 1800s. Think about the principles of persuasion, right? Repetition. That's literally what they're thinking. Coca-Cola. Same with Google, right? Google is like this a repetition that is part of the persuasion stack for. Jack, you work with this stuff. It's like C and C. They literally like explicitly put that. So they think about branding from the very beginning, which is incredible. That's why they had the bottle, right? The bottle is very distinctive. They patent it for years.
I heard a myth on this about whoever commissioned that. The brief was design a bottle that someone could recognize if it was smashed on the side of the road.
Yes. No, I think that is true. And that's how incredible of a
foresight you have to ask that. Yeah, it's crazy.
So these guys obviously have just been, because at the end of the day, man, the chirp is real. It's freaking sugar water. Yeah, these guys are selling you sugar water, right?
Buffett loves it.
Yeah, Buffett loves it, bro. So anyway, I go back to the.
He has one a day with his Big Mac, right?
His Big
Mac and a Coke keeps the doctor away. Yeah. But anyway, so back to so that was setting the stage. Coca-Cola, legendary
they do brands, they
brand
always
people.
Yeah. So there's actually to correct Bilal, but I gave him the prompt, so it's my bad. It's like Coca-Cola didn't actually invent Santa. They
So go on.
It's asked so often, it's such a myth that there's an FAQ on the Coca-Cola website that answers the question, did we invent
Santa? I'm
Santa?
literally on it right now.
Dude, how funny is that? They have an FAQ just to set the record straight. So basically, what they popularize is the idea of a fat, jolly Santa that we know in our minds today.
What about red and white? Do they have any influence on that?
So let me tell you, there's a poem in 1822 which the artist that created the Coca-Cola Santa created his image based off of. The poem was called "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and in the poem it mentions the exact words. His cheeks were like roses. The beard of his chin was as white as snow, and he had a round, broad face and little round belly. So the poem described the Santa we know today. It was called "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." But the thing was this. In the 1800s, there were many images of what Santa Claus looked like. He was shown as a freaking elf, as like a scary, gaunt, like monster. But Coca-Cola obviously didn't want to do any of those versions of Santa. So they took the cheeky roses, the red cheek roses, the round belly, and the artist's name was Haydon Sunbloom. Probably said it wrong. They paid him the equivalent of today of $20,000 to create the image we now know as Coca-Cola. And Bilal's looking at the FAQ there, but they had to set the record
reading
straight.
Face there, right?
Yeah, man. So they ran ads like their version of Santa Claus, which is basically what we know today, for 30 years. The last ad was in 1964 of like this original Santa Claus, but like literally, so they actually did kind of create our image of Santa, and that's the story. It's crazy.
It's a great meme, man. That's an ultimate meme.
It is the ultimate meme, right?
I mean, look at these boys. We need some Jack critique.
Yeah.
I mean,
here we
look
go.
at this.
Jack,
incredible scenes.
These are
for people listening.
Incredible
those scenes. I mean, first of all, I have to say, for people listening, I'm showing
you
the
Google Coca-Cola
images
Santa.
Of Santa Claus, Coca-Cola. But I think that color, the red and white thing already is incredible. Like, just to think, we now think, if I heard you correctly, because I was reading at the same time,
no
just the colors, the fact we have that positive association with Coca-Cola, with this kind of like happy, jolly character, if that's kind of part of it. It's incredible manipulation, which as a marketer, I have respect for. But there's, I mean, like, well, look at this. Is there anyone that's standing out to you, Jack, that you want to talk through?
Jack, hit us about the meme. Talk about, you love memes. Like, how incredible of a 10D chess move was this?
Well, I think like the idea of, we talk about the idea of memes, and they have distribution like no other because of the amount of money they spent, right? And even if you drive through like an old town in America, there'll be like a busted like Coca-Cola sign that is probably coming up on 80 years old or whatever. So they've been like pros in the name recognition and brand game for a long time. And then like having that head start and creating that Santa thing that they're putting money behind and getting in front of a lot of people, everybody else just follows their lead, right? And it almost like that is like a feedback loop that benefits them. It's almost like a weird CCO conversation, right? Like they made this character, and then like everybody just follows their lead, and people see red and white, they think of Coca-Cola. In the UK, they have remember the Holidays Are Coming ad, Bilal?
Yeah.
It's like it's like, I don't know, November 20 something, they start playing this ad in the UK, which is basically a semi truck, Coca-Cola semi truck going through like a snowy, like, romanticized environment. It's Holidays Are Coming. That's a real song, isn't it? Holidays Are Coming. That over and over again.
Is it a real song, or did Coca-Cola
I don't know if they made
song?
it or not. But I'm just like that. I think there's all these like subtle subconscious feedback loops around like that, the red and white Santa, that even like you go past like lawn blow up Santas now, red and white, right? Like even the the colors of the season itself, right?
Yeah,
People
it's
have
red and white,
wreaths
dude.
with that
It's
color.
crazy, dude.
Like the impact that it's had as a meme is almost equivalent of like a nation state, like Star Spangled Banner level of.
Like the anthem and like the flag. That's such a great point.
Because there's a 6529 thread that talks about the power of memes, and like they use the American flag as one of the most profound memes that there is. You see that symbol, and it doesn't matter who or where you are, you're not going to have the same idea of it, but you're going to have a reaction to it.
Yeah, you're going to have a reaction to it, 100%, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Santa's the same.
The other thing I was going to say, because nowadays we call it like content marketing, but this is just old school ads, right? But
it is content marketing.
It is content marketing. And another parallel I'll draw from the Coca-Cola example. Again, to clarify, I was wrong. They didn't invent Santa Claus. They, made the image of him. But two other examples, and I'm wondering, I feel like Trung, well, both of you might know this, but Trung, this could be a Trung thread. So Guinness Book of World Records and the Michelin star restaurants.
what
they have in common, right? So Michelin star restaurants, for a lot of people don't know, that was created by the company, the tire company, Michelin, apparently. And they basically created this thing where you have all these restaurants around the world that you would go and drive to these far out places because you're going to sell more fucking tires, which is kind of crazy. And the second one is Guinness Book of World Records, which is, obviously Guinness, the brand, they created that. And I haven't verified this, but, this is all vibes, no facts. So I'm assuming it's possible. But are there any other examples like that? Because I think that's a really cool, like old school marketing, advertising principle that you can kind of apply forever now.
Yeah. I don't know an example, but I was going to say like hooking yourself onto something that is like relevant in culture. Clearly. And then just saying like, oh, that's ours now. Is a crazy move, but it's played out that way. Like Christmas was obviously a thing before Coca-Cola decided to brand it.
They took
it was a thing.
I want you to think about freaking FW. Coca-Cola just snatched Christmas. Like, I like that. Imagine you see Coca-Cola. Hey guys, I kind of like this whole Christmas thing. I want it. Like, I want it. And literally, they basically they own it.
Someone draft up a character. Yeah, I mean it's just mind blowing. I think the world records thing, like the Michelin. I actually worked on a Michelin account for like 2 or 3 years.
Unreal.
And that's still huge. But you ask 9 out of 10 people have no idea that they're even related, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
If you look closely, the little Michelin man is on the stickers on restaurant doors and stuff.
So
it's hilarious. And you like unpack that story, people are like, what?
I want that. I love that. I love how some C-suite dudes like, I want that. And they're like, all right, we're going to figure out a way. Oh my goodness.
All right, one more, boys. Which is not exactly the same because I know we got to cut out. Is I'm going to share my screen. It's not the same thing, but just again, manipulation of creating the campaign. De Beers,
making that, not only creating that you have to give your fiance a diamond ring, putting a number that is completely scalable. 2 months salary. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. You're going to pay 2 months salary.
I think it is. That might be a Canadian rule.
But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you're celebrating. And I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you on the next one.
Perfect.